Hey, welcome into the Sneak Truth Podcast alongside Mike Evans. I am Mark Schlereth. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, also wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever the case may be. Thank you so much. Make sure you stay tuned later on in the week for our Audacy podcast that goes out all over the great Audacy radio network as well. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm great, and we are going to violate the first rule of Fight Club.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to talk about Fight Club.
Yes.
And the Broncos got into a little bit of a melee, some fisticuffs. It all started with Nick Benito bull rushing Garrett Bowles into Bo Nix. Nix getting knocked down, got up, threw the football at Malcolm Roach. Then a couple plays later, Alex Singleton picked off a pass. And then R.J. Harvey punched the ball loose, and that led to a training camp fight that you've seen and probably been involved in a bunch of them. So, is this a big deal?
No, it's not a big deal. It is one of those things where, you've been playing against, and I know everybody's heard this, right? Like, you've been playing against the same guys in training camp. They didn't have any of these joint practices, so the same guys consistently, and you kind of know each other, and you get irritated. Like in my day, I know there were guys that would get pissed at me that were my teammates because I was holding them. And they complain about try to knock down my hands late. And I'm like, hey, dumbass, don't get held. Like, right? I mean, it's not that hard. You give me your chest, I'm going to hold it, right? And there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And so there was always that give and take, and occasionally a fight would ensue or whatever. But you get in the locker room, it all gets, swept under the rug. I guarantee you, the coaching staff talked about, hey, crossing the line, and you can't cross the line. You got to protect your teammates, and this can't happen. And then they snuck upstairs, where they have their own coaches meeting, and they were giddy about the intensity, right? We're going after each other. So I think all that stuff is good. I think one of the things you have to understand about practice, okay? There are certain drills that benefit the offense. Like 7-on-7, when you're just running routes on air, like that's an offensive-driven drill. 9-on-7, that's a defensive-driven drill, right? Yeah. When you were running the ball against your 7-in-the-box defenders, and every play's a run, right? That's a defense, like blitz pickup. Well, what do you think we're going to do, right? They're blitzing us, and we're going to throw it every down. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about a fake to the running back on play action, right? None of that stuff. You're just rushing the passer. So there are certain drills that just favor a defense. And then when you talk about the Denver Broncos defense, dude, like this defense is probably the deepest defense in the National Football League, with just waves of really good players that come at you. You know what it reminds me of? Back in the day when the San Francisco 49ers were winning multiple Super Bowls, and they always got overshadowed by the offense, right? It was Joe Montana, it was Jerry Rice, Roger Craig back in the day, Rathman, Brent Jones at the tight end position, Taylor on the other side, and so the offense always got the accolades and all the attention. But that defense was an absolute bitch. And they would bring in, this was a George Seifert thing when he took over for Bill Walsh. Yeah. They would bring waves so everybody stayed fresh, and they had a two deep where everybody played a bunch. And they had Fagan and Pierce Holt, and they had, they just had dudes, Walter playing linebacker, could run forever, and you'd just be like wave after wave of dudes. That's what the Broncos have. They have unbelievable depth. They've got 4 or 5 guys coming off the edge that can all rush the passer. They've got guys in the interior that can flat out play. And frankly, they have dominated a lot of these drills, and there is a level of frustration especially with the offense, because in the practices, defense wins most of these practices.
Well, the Broncos' depth, and I'll include offensively, the depth was on display in their first preseason game as they really beat up on Atlanta. And I'd love to get your impressions. And let's face it, other than Bo Nix's health during the offseason, the biggest offseason story was Davis Webb taking over, Sean Payton giving up the play calling. So I'm curious what your initial impressions were of a Davis Webb-led operation.
All right, so I loved it. I love what Davis Webb put out there right off the bat in the first couple of drives. First and foremost, Mike, being able to dictate defensive coverage through formations and personnel groupings. Like, these are things that are really, really important. So right off the bat, the very first play, you're coming out in 21 personnel. You're coming out with a fullback, a tailback, a tight end, 2 backs, and 1 tight end, 21. Mm-hmm. You're coming out in heavy people. What do you get when you come out in heavy people? This is a quiz for you.
The other side will have heavy, big people.
That's one thing you'll get. What coverage will you get when you come out in heavy people?
Probably man-to-man.
Well, you can get that, or you're going to get what we call cover 3. But you're going to, most of the time, you're going to get, good job, Mike.
I'm giving myself 2 for 2.
You're giving yourself 2 for 2.
Straight
You're going to get middle of the field closed or single high safety type of coverage. Why?
Yeah, you weren't going to get that from me.
Yeah. Why are you getting that?
Uh-huh.
Because you're in heavy personnel and they're afraid of you running the ball down their freaking throats.
All right, I got you.
So the very first play, they come out in heavy personnel, which means single high means you got access to the outside, meaning the corners are going to play off, corners are going to play zone, and the first play you run is a deep comeback with Pat Bryant. And you get the exact coverage you want. So here's Davis Webb going, I'm getting a chance to call the plays. I'm going to get us in a favorable defense to create an access throw to the outside. Pat Bryant on a comeback just drills it. Great protection. Yeah! And you start off with like a 15-yard completion. And now we're rolling, right? Now we're going. And so I'm one of the few people that got to sit and talk to Davis Webb during a practice in this offseason and say, hey, man, what is kind of philosophically, what are you thinking about? And he told me about identity, which is, I'm always big on identity. So one of the things he talked about was the identity of play calling and the run game. And so I always feel like, man, you've got to have 4 or 5 North Star plays. Mm-hmm. These are the things we can execute at any front, any defense, whether it be nickel, whether it be base, whether it be any type of sub, whatever it is, we can operate these plays. And they came out in their first 2 possessions with either 21 personnel or 12 personnel, and they really lived, Mike, in like 5 different run plays throughout the game. But early, it was power and it was ISO. And that's really and duo. And that's really kind of where they lived. And I'm telling you, they had a couple of double teams early between Quinn Miners and Mike McGlinchey that were tie on the doorknob. Baby, don't come in here. I am watching double team. This is double team perfection. These blocks were as well done as I have ever seen. And it was exciting. And then there were really good aggressiveness, capturing the line of scrimmage, driving people off the ball that got me really excited. And the big thing for me was, especially early, they lived in about 3 plays. Mm-hmm. That's where they were living. And they were getting what I think is the most important aspect of running the ball in the National Football League. They were getting a dirty 4. Like they were getting those 4-yard finish on your term type runs that wear a defense down. And I love that, basically saying we're going to hang our head on these 3 or 4 different run concepts that we're going to get. And off of that stuff, we're going to create some of our passing game, and we're going to have 4 or 5 adjunct kind of play action stuff that we're running off of that.
Well, let's talk about that run game. 39 carries for 162 yards. They average about 4.2 yards per carry. And, you think about all the hype during the offseason when they picked up Jonah Coleman. And right from the start, you've been talking about Jonah Coleman. When you did your breakdown of running backs coming out of the draft, you highlighted Jonah Coleman as someone you really liked. And based on the early returns, not only what we watched, all of us watched in that preseason game, but how about Sean Payton and Davis Webb both coming out this week and saying, hey, after 3 or 4 carries, we had seen enough. We pulled him out.
Yeah.
Because we had seen enough to validate what we'd already seen in practices. We saw it in those 4 carries during the game. Stink, I can't recall the last time a rookie, never mind a 4th-round draft pick, was afforded almost like established veteran-type treatment in a preseason game.
Yeah, he was exceptional.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, I loved him coming out of Washington. And I also loved, the fact that he doesn't have what we would call elite level athletic attributes. That's why he's a 4th rounder.
Right.
But he's got elite level running back skill set. That's why a lot of these guys in the NFL that are 4th rounders, 5th rounders come out, the running backs, and all of a sudden you're like, damn, that guy's really good, right? See, most of the time, what ends up dropping you is you don't have, the prototypical height. Guy's 5'8". Okay, that knocks you down a peg.
Right.
Why? It's stupid, right? But that's how we operate in the NFL. Then, all of a sudden, he's a 4'6", 40 guy. Bam, that knocks you down a peg.
Yep.
Well, I mean, literally, how many breakout runs do you get where your 4.3 speed just takes you away from the rest of the it just doesn't happen very often. All right, so you get a breakaway run and you're going to get 45 to 60 before you get reeled in.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it as long as you're finishing hard with those ugly 4-yard runs. So when you watch Jonah Coleman, man, I'm telling you what, first opportunity, there's a couple things that stood out. One, first opportunity. Put your foot in the ground and go get us that ugly, nasty 4 yards where we finish on our terms. First run of the game, man. Boom, in there. Smacked it in. I mean, probably got contacted within 2 yards. They finished there in 2nd down and 6. Beautiful, right? The other thing that you have to understand is what is the blocking scheme and who's wearing the hat? Do you know what I mean by that?
No.
Okay, so on the blocking scheme, there's double teams and there's easy leverage blocks. Like any blocking scheme will have a leverage situation where we automatically, just based on where the defensive lines and where we're running the ball and where our offensive players are, we have a leverage advantage.
Okay.
So a guy is wide outside my shoulder and we're running to the right and I just have to kick out. That's an easy leverage advantage win. So you know what you think right now? Well, if I cut back, I'm going to have a seam back there because we win that one. But the guy who wears the hat is the guy who's singled up and is not in a leverage position, is not in a winning leverage position. So that's where you have to understand that dude's wearing the hat. He's got the toughest block. I probably, even if I'm pressing toward that guy, I need to be aware of where I need to cut. And so one of the things, like he had a run on what we call like a duo play, which is double teams but no pullers, right? It's a gap play without a puller. And so it plays off your power, it plays off some of those plays. So he runs and he takes the handoff and he's right at the outside hip of the tackle, and there's a 2 tight end set, right? And Evan Ingram has got a tough block. So he comes in and he just slows down, and Evan Ingram's guy jumps inside, the defensive end kind of jumps inside, and Evan Ingram walls him off. So here's a guy that pauses, hesitates, right? Lets the defense make its own mistake, and then bounces just outside of that. But if he bounces wide, it was either a tight end or a wide receiver, is going to get crushed and he's going to get tackled for 2 yards. So he he comes right off of Evan Ingram's ass, knowing that guy now has a tough block, the guy that's outside of me. So right off to where he's touching him, right? And he creates that space between the next blocker and the defender. And so now he's into the line of scrimmage. Here he sees the safety rolling down, bam, puts his head on him and spins right out of it and ends up picking up like 12 or 14 yards. And that's when the Broncos pulled him and said, we've seen enough. So your ability to set up the second level defender, in this case it was a first level defender, but set up the blockers, especially the guy that's wearing the hat, Mike.
So Coleman's already shown an understanding of how to be a running back in the NFL. R.J. Harvey last year showed a lot of ability when it came to catching the ball or running to the outside, but when it came to running inside like that, you could tell he had a lot to learn about being an inside runner. Did you see signs in the preseason opener that he's learning some lessons?
Yeah, then I also saw a play that just pissed me off, and I was like, I'm done. I am done.
One play, huh?
So, because it was clear as day. You turned a 7-8 yard gain into a 2-yard gain by not understanding exactly what we're saying. And I'll just give you the scenario. They're running ISO, lead ISO, right? Fullback out of an I formation on the Mike backer. So what you have is on the backside, you have fan, easy blocks, bam, bam, cutoffs, right? So you have the left guard and the left tackle kicking out, okay? Easy. Then you have an ace block, which is center, right guard, double teaming the nose to the backside linebacker. Okay. And now you're leading the fullback up on the Mike, right? And so the fullback the ace block is executed beautifully, right? Bam, we got that covered. The fullback digs out the Mike backer. He's got inside hat placement, right? So there's a seam there. Now, it's not a big seam. It's about 10 inches wide. But if you stick your nose in it, you may trip at 8 yards, right? I mean, you're going to go. And it's beautifully executed. The one guy who has to wear the hat in this particular blocking scheme is Mike McGlinchey, the right tackle, who's got a defensive end head up on him. We call it a 4 technique. So he's head up. So that guy's 2-gapping, meaning he's got the inside gap, he's got the outside gap. So McGlinchey's got to come off the ball, get movement, but keep that inside leverage on him. Beautiful. Perfectly executed, right? I mean, he's got it locked in. And here goes R.J. Harvey. If you stick it in there, you got 8 yards. I mean, as sure as I'm sitting here, I guarantee you got 8 yards. But he gets a little nervous because there's bodies in there, right? There's not a lot of room. He bounces outside. Defensive end, who McGlinchey cut off, just goes, boom, tackle. And I was like, you little son of a... Like, you cannot do that.
Right.
And that, to me, is a couple of things. Not trusting it and not understanding it. You don't understand who's wearing the hat, who's got the toughest block in the scheme. And I'm again, it was beautifully executed. And so you add that, to that run total, 39 for, what'd you say, 160 whatever?
Yeah, 162.
Well, now it's 39 for 175, or whatever. And so those things drive me crazy. And that's why I think at the end of the day, you'll see Jonah Coleman usurp, as far as the second back in, he'll usurp R.J. Harvey. Now, R.J. Harvey, I think, will still be the third down back. Right. And there'll be opportunities, there'll be some games where he's got a ton of opportunities because you're in a lot of third downs. And there'll be some where I just don't think he gets a lot of opportunities because I think Jonah Coleman's going to surpass him.
So that's some of the impressions from the offensive side of things. Defensively, it's been a point of emphasis that we have to create more turnovers. That for all the pressure we put on quarterbacks last year, all the sacks, only forced 14 turnovers. Early returns are good. They got 2 interceptions. Riley Mosh, Jahdae Barron, he takes his back for a pick 6. Is there going to be something different that the defense does this year to try to create more turnovers, or are they just counting on the law of averages coming back in their favor?
Yeah, I think it's a law of averages thing. I think that's part of it. I think part of it also, Mike, is you played a lot of one-score games. And you were behind in a lot of those one-score games. And, I mean, offenses aren't stupid. They understand how good this defense is. They understand the ability to rush the passer. They understand all those things. So they're not putting their guys in harm's way. And also, the lack of consistency on the offensive side of the Broncos allowed the opponent's offense to play that way, to play conservatively. So to sit here and think, and I've heard people say here in the local market, you could tell there was an emphasis, on turnovers. No, they're like every team in the league works on, they preach. Do you think all of a sudden the analytics department came down and said, guys, we were studying turnovers in the off season. Turns out you win the turnover battle, you win 87% of your games. No shit, Sherlock. Of course. That's from the inception of NFL football.
You think if Vance Joseph got together this year with the defense and said, look, this year we're doing something revolutionary.
Yeah.
You defensive linemen, put your hands up.
That's
See if we can tip some balls.
Tip balls, turn into turnovers.
Or linebackers.
Yeah.
If a ball is going by you, feel free to put your hand out and try to tip it to a safety, to a corner like Jahdae Barron who can take it back the other way.
The Broncos,
I guess that was the new coaching this year, right?
They had 14 turnovers last year. I bet you they dropped 7 interceptions, right? So they'd have been in the 20s. It is to me a little bit odd that they had the number of sacks they had and didn't create more fumbles and those things. But listen, if you're playing with a lead and you're playing with good offensive consistency and you get a 10-point advantage, then the interceptions are going to come. Then the turnovers will come. But the odds of them sitting at 14 again like they did last year are slim to none. I would be shocked if they didn't come close to doubling that number.
I'd agree.
I'd be shocked.
Let's look ahead to the next preseason game with some anticipation because Bo Nix is going to make his.
Okay.
You want one other thing you want to get up?
I want to talk a little bit about Courtland Sutton.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Courtland Sutton is a vastly, I know he's not the fastest dude or whatever, but Courtland Sutton is vastly underrated. That dude, his body control, his size, the way he can dominate from that aspect.
Those 50-50 balls, he's an artist.
One, he's got great hands.
Yep.
He's got great length, and he's got great size. And Sean Payton always talks about if you're going to win on the edges of a football field, you got to have size at the wide receiver position. And he definitely has that. He's got that size. He's got that ability. On the first drive, he had about the 40-yard ball down the – and again, this goes back to Davis Webb. Setting him up, motioning to a 2x2 formation and having a 2-high safety structure. They're in quarters. And you could tell they're in quarters because of the depth of the safeties, one, and because the cornerback that's covering, that's over the top of Courtland Sutton has outside leverage. So he's got outside leverage, and so they run both the inside receivers. They run a double crossing route, but it's they're bending it at 14, so you're getting picked up in kind of a man situation in a quarters coverage, and so you've got leverage from your inside receiver running or your outside receiver Courtland Sutton running a post, and Stiddy just throws it up there, and he 50-50 balls that as well. So he had a couple of those catches. He had a little inside on a third down conversion, a little under route from the outside on the right-hand side. They just manhandled the corner, and then inside. And so I like when they get Waddle back and they've got Sutton and they've got the guys they have with Franklin and some other guys, they're legitimate, man.
I can't help but think that maybe Courtland Sutton was a little extra motivated to go out on Friday with all the hype surrounding Jalen Waddle since his arrival. And it's been great hype and justified. But maybe just a reminder, hey, don't forget about me. Don't forget about me.
Oh, yeah. There's no question because he's one of those guys that when you're talking about really good receivers, he doesn't get mentioned.
Right.
And it's probably because he's just not flashy. He's just a really good football player.
Any concern about Waddle? So, he was hurt last week, sat out some practices, came back on Monday, limited. He had a sleeve, full-length sleeve on his left leg, was back out in team drills Tuesday without the sleeve. Some people noticed that on one route he came up a little bit gimpy, was a little bit slow, and then Wednesday he was back out there but wearing the sleeve again. So any worries, any concerns about Jalen Waddle?
Sure. Anytime you've got an elite level speed guy, an elite level explosion guy who's got some soft tissue issues, like that's concerning because those things can linger. So for me, I know what kind of player Waddle is. And I think the Broncos know what kind of player Waddle is. And so I don't think they would have any hesitation if they feel like Jalen Waddle's got a little bit of an issue to shut him down until the regular season. Like I don't think that's an issue at all.
Well, if you do that though, okay, you've been taking it slow with Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Now Bo's going to play in the second preseason game coming up on Friday against the Packers, but at some point, do you got to have the two of them get on the same page and have some reps together and some connections made during the preseason?
No, I don't think. I mean, does it help? Of course it helps. Football is one of those things where you only get really good at playing football by practicing football. So, yeah, would that help? Absolutely. But listen, I mean, if you're going to run a concept where he's running a low cross or a deep over or whatever, and you've got Troy Franklin or Mims running it, you're gonna be all right. Like there are gonna be opportunities to get him the ball. There's gonna be opportunities where he is gonna be the primary in a route combination, and you're gonna get that. You're gonna feed him early. You're gonna get that rhythm established, and they've been working all off season together since that trade. So I don't get too concerned about it because he's a professional. I mean, the guy is a real professional, and he's played a lot in this league. And Bo's played a lot in this league, so it doesn't scare me that much.
Yeah, what about Bo for the second preseason game? Because you're talking about somebody who hasn't played football since the Bills playoff game, who had a different offseason from the standpoint of having the ankle procedure and then the cleanup procedure. The Broncos took it very easy with Bo during the mini camp and OTA part of the offseason, and then he doesn't play in the first preseason game while the other stars were playing. So what would be your message to Broncos country in terms of expectations for Bo in this first game coming up on Friday?
Yeah, I'm expecting him to play well, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him go 3 and out in the first drive. And then everybody goes, "Well, they looked so good last week." And one thing about Bo is his competitiveness gets the best of him a little bit, and he gets a little sped up early. And I think it's one of the reasons you saw, some offensive performances early in games that just didn't look right. And then he settles in. And so his issue is you almost have to put a governor on Bo.
Right.
You gotta slow him down. And sometimes I think you can get that out of coaching. You can get that out of the way you call plays and get him into a game a little bit. So that's a little bit on Davis Webb to get him going. But I wouldn't be at all surprised to see him overshoot a couple receivers. They are the wide open guys, and all of a sudden he's 6 yards in front of them or whatever, because he does get a little amped up. And so I want to see him calm down. I would expect him to play probably 2 drives. Now, if the drives are crappy, you might see 3 or 4 drives, right? Until you get a good drive in. But once he gets a good drive in where that offense is operating and they look the part, then I think you'll see him get pulled out. But I'd like to see him get 15 to 20 plays in this second preseason game, and I think he'll get that.
Well, we got a ton of great stuff to talk about out of that first preseason game. Looking forward to the Broncos and Packers preseason game number 2, and we'll be here to talk in depth about all of it.
No question about it. We'll cover the whole league as well. This just happens to be the Stink of Truth Broncos edition of the podcast, but cover the whole league, all the things I saw week 1 in the preseason. We'll be bringing that to you, kind of expectations for week 2 for some of these teams as well, what they need to do, all those things. We'll cover it here all season long, all preseason long. And this is the one place you just got to make sure you lock in, subscribe, and make sure you tell all your friends, because we'll break it down every single week. For everybody involved in the Stink Truth podcast, alongside Mike Evans, I am Mark Schlereth. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day.